Have you ever thought about how a company's absolute worst day could actually end up being its greatest opportunity? Well, we're going to dive into a story where a catastrophic failure didn't just put a business on the ropes, it actually showed them a hidden path to completely transform everything.
On the surface, everything looked perfect. The business was solid. Customers were happy. But this quote right here, it hints that something was lurking just underneath all that calm. A major strategic risk that nobody saw, just waiting for the right crisis to bring it into the light.
Okay, so let's get into it. The company at the heart of all this is called Cloud Vault, and to really get a grip on their crisis, you first have to understand the quiet, steady success they built and just how much was on the line when it almost all came crashing down.
Now, CloudVault wasn't your typical flashy tech startup. Not at all. Its founder, Jake Sullivan, kind of backed into the whole thing by salvaging a bunch of servers a failed company left behind. He set up shop in a no-frills industrial park, a place you pick for function, not for a fancy address. This was a business built out of pure practicality, and it just quietly grew into a seriously profitable little operation. And man, was it stable. CloudVault became the place for clients who absolutely could not afford to go down. We're talking law firms, software as a service companies, even blockchain startups. This gave them this beautiful, reliable stream of monthly recurring revenue. It was the kind of predictable, money-making business most people only dream of building.
And by 2025, that quiet success added up to this: $2.3 million in cash just sitting in the bank. This wasn't just profit, this was a fortress. For a company that started with leftover parts, this number meant total security. It was a war chest that could handle any storm. Or so it seemed.
But that fortress, that whole stable world, was about to get a massive reality check. Because a crisis doesn't really care how much cash you have when your most essential piece of equipment suddenly decides to give up.
And that's exactly what went down. Boom. Out of the blue, the cooling system, which is basically the life support for any data center, it just failed. In a heartbeat, the entire business was on the brink of a literal meltdown. The immediate hit to the wallet was just staggering. $200,000 gone, just like that. Almost 10% of their entire cash reserve spent in a frantic few hours on emergency fixes just to stop the bleeding. But here's the thing, the real damage wasn't even the money. The crisis was like a giant, harsh spotlight that suddenly revealed all these critical weaknesses in their setup that they'd been totally blind to. It uncovered these deep operational blind spots, the kind of problems that you can't just throw money at to fix. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting, because this moment of complete vulnerability, it actually became the trigger for a huge strategic pivot. The crisis forced them to look at their business in a way they never had before. And what did they see? They saw that their biggest strength, all that cash, was also a hidden risk. They had a ton of idle capital. That $2.3 million was just sitting there, not doing anything, not generating returns. The crisis made them realize that having a pile of money is one thing, but if you're not using it to grow, you're actually taking a huge risk without even knowing it. And then, almost as if on cue, an opportunity pops up. A chance to buy a bigger, way more advanced data center. This wasn't just about patching up the old facility. This was a chance to take a giant leap forward. But the price tag for that leap was huge. $1.8 million. A number so big it would mean gambling almost every dollar they had saved up over the years. This one move would completely change the game for them. And just look at this chart. It puts the scale of that decision into perfect perspective. That proposed investment would eat up nearly 80% of their entire cash reserves. That financial fortress they'd built, they'd be tearing it down to bet it all on this one massive play for growth. So here we are. This entire situation, kicked off by a busted cooling system, now boils down to one single massive question. A choice between two very, very different futures. So you've got two paths. Path A is the safe play. Fortify and optimize what you already have. You use just a fraction of your cash, it's way lower risk, but it also means slower, steadier growth. Then there's Path B, the big swing, acquire and expand. It's much higher risk, you're deploying almost all your capital, but the payoff could be transformative. It's security versus ambition, plain and simple. So we're going to leave you with that question. You've just survived a near-death experience for your company. Do you use what you've got left to build your walls higher and safer? Or do you push all your chips in and bet the house on building a brand new kingdom? You're the founder. What's your move?